let's get started with the, I guess, the diagnosis, huh?
I'm ready. So, the diagnosis was, it was a thing. It was a tough thing, but it started off from nothing. A little bit of background, actually. This happened in the last days of March 2020 and the early days of April 2020. I'd got no idea I'd had I'm going to say, a slightly nagging sore throat that you wouldn't even think about doing anything with, never mind going to the doctors with it.
Right.
Nothing else. I'd been, but just a bit before that, it still didn't pick up a warning sign, and I'll say why in a minute. Um, I was kind of sometimes coughing a little bit too much when I was eating. My wife was just telling me to slow down. You know that feeling you get when food's going like the wrong way, whatever they call it.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was saying, "Oh, slow down," you know. But then 31st of March, we were 1 week in a lockdown here in the UK,
Yeah.
and it was 1 o'clock. I was having just having a sandwich, watching the 1 o'clock BBC News, and a cup of tea and a sandwich, and I just coughed again, but up comes some blood with it, and we thought this is probably not so good. So we dialed the local 111 service and explained what had gone on, and they said, "Look, you know, you've really got to go down to A&E. There's no chance of getting an ambulance." Um, uh, and I thought, seemed a bit of a thing, really, just for A&E anyway. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, they gave me, I don't know if it was a code, but they said you could, when you get there, tell them you've got to be seen in 30 minutes. You spoke to 111 and you got to be seen in 30 minutes. And seen in 30 minutes I was. A lady doctor came down to see me, like they normally like a triage doctor, first of all. And she put a lolly stick in my mouth and say, "Ah." And I said, "Ah." And she went, "Just wait here a minute." And off she went and came back and said, "I booked you in with A&E tomorrow." And I thought, okay, must be something going on then
Right.
to get an A&E appointment that quickly, and especially, you know, it was all COVID and it was madness, wasn't it? The first weeks of COVID, you know, so many people were dying. They hadn't got a fix on what they were going to do with treatments. What I wanted to come back to, oh no, sorry, I'll carry on a little bit more. So I did go to E&E the next day, and the guy did the lolly stick thing again, and then they put a camera up my nose and down my throat. Um, and said, "Okay, yeah." He said, "I've got to send you for got to book you in for a biopsy." And that, and I said, "It's looking like cancer." And he said, "Look," he said, "we don't know until, you know, we know." I said, "I get all of that, but this is what we're looking for, yeah." I said, "Because you must have an idea." He said, "Yes." He said, "We've got an idea, but we obviously we have to check first before we can say anything." And yeah, uh, a week later, I got a phone call, 8 o'clock in the morning. I was still in bed. "Can you come in today, discuss the results?" And I said to Sam Ross, "If I'm coming in right now, 11 o'clock, then, you know, I think is what we think it is." And true enough, I still saw Mr. Wheatley. He was the ENT top man, Mr. Wheatley, a surgeon. Um, and he sat me down and he went through and he showed me some stuff on his computer monitor. It's like a 3D game going through my body. But he come to explain and showed me the actual parts and said, "It's actually at stage 3, Warren. It's, you know, it's quite advanced," because I'd had it and I got no idea.
Right.
And
That's
this is
really,
what I'm going to come back to right now. So some months before that, this was in March of 2020. So in, I think, about November of 2019, I'd had my normal age-related bowel cancer screening thing,
right.
and that was clear. And then in February of 2020, I'd had my prostate cancer test, PSA thing done, blood test that is, to get your PSA number. and that was low. That was clear. So you wouldn't think in March, just a bit of coughing and a sore throat, that you got stage 3 cancer. And here's the first problem I want people to know. There are over 200 different cancers that we could have, and there are nearly 200 cancer tests to find them. Because you tested for one thing doesn't mean you're clear on something else. Now,
Scary.
I don't know who gets this and who doesn't, but you think like, a blood test, and you would know there's not enough white cells or not enough red cells or whatever it is that the markers are, but that's not the case.
Wow.
So that's the first big takeaway from this. That any lumps, any bumps, go and get them tested, man or woman.
All right.
And almost insist, because I found there's a thing that people are, I'm not saying the NHS are passive on this, but I think they're always looking for no, we don't think it is. It's the worst part is the bit that they go, no, I don't think it's that. Well, no, prove it. I've got to the point where I say that, no, I'm not taking that. I'm not accepting that.
No, you're right.
So that's a real takeaway from this. But I mean, for anybody that might be watching
Good
this,
advice was.
yeah, because so there we are, stage 3 cancer.
So how did you take it?
Huh?
I mean, emotionally, what did that do? The first stage 3 coming out at you, that must have hit you like.
Well, I get passed over at this point. Now I get moved from ENT to oncology.
Okay.
And this is where my next appointment, after Mr. Wheatley explained everything, and he gave me an overview of how the treatment was going to be. And it was going to be 30 fractions, as they call it, of radiotherapy over 6 weeks.
Where was this? Was this in England or in Campbell?
This was in Gloucester, here in Gloucester.
Gloucester, when you got back.
And I'm quite lucky that the oncology centre for Gloucestershire is just up the road in Cheltenham. Good for me, actually. I mean, people come from quite some miles to go, but it's a 20-minute drive for me, so it's kind of quite easy. But then I got an appointment. I think it was, I just walked across the corridor and I was introduced to Dr. Grant Warren, another Warren. I did ask him at some point if he was a wazzer as well, and he said he was, actually. But he's been my oncologist for nearly 5 years now, revered by my whole family. He's such a great guy, though. I mean, it's a tough job to be in, I guess, when you're just dealing with people that are most likely going to die. I mean, we're all going to die, but this is an advanced going to die kind of thing,
Right.
So I was introduced to Dr. Grant, and then he went through things in a bit more detail about the treatment, how it would be. Doesn't take radiotherapy. Is very much a painless treatment, but the pain afterwards, it builds up inside the I suppose it's a bit like microwaving, really. And the longer you do it, the more it kind of builds up. And this is what happens over 6 weeks of treatment. You start off and everything, you think like, not so bad.
When I met you at that time in Gloucester, I remember you struggling to swallow.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I remember that.
Well,
you a bit because you like a bit of food as well.
Yeah, so they're very much different. What are they called? Trusts. Different areas of the NHS do different things. Here in Gloucestershire, they're very much, from what I've spoken to other cancer patients in other areas, I think they're a bit more. What's the word? They're a bit more advanced in their thinking. They do things in advance here. So I had what's called a peg put in, a feeding tube. I had that put in first. A lot of hospitals, a lot of trusts don't do that. They only put a peg in when they find out that people can't eat. And you can't eat because you burned. It's one of the hardest radiotherapy treatments because you've got, you're sunburned on the outside. If you imagine sunburn, bad sunburn, you've actually got that inside your throat.
Yeah.
And I had, it was badly burned on the outside as well, but it was even worse inside You can't do anything. You just make this, I don't know. Your body's making a fluid to try and counteract the burns, but that's all you're coughing up for weeks. It's
And it took
awful.
weeks after the finish of the therapy.
After the finish, it was surprising. Things came back to me. I could, by week one was funny. I mean, you also have, let me see, you also have a steroid, dexamethasone,
Right.
that they give you in the first, I can't remember, but certainly in the first few weeks to try and help counteract some of the swelling. It's a strong anti-inflammatory steroid, but it makes you feel good. Dexamethasone is one of these kind of feel-good drugs. And I remember in week one, every day the radiologists, they say, "How are you feeling, Warren?" And I felt fine in week one. In fact, I felt really good. It probably was the dexamethasone. I remember saying to them, "You know something? Having a few extra volts inside me, it's made me feel a lot better, actually." And they said, "Oh, it'll come, Warren, it'll come." By week 3, I was getting a really raspy voice.
Yeah.
Week 4, I don't think I could speak. I couldn't think about swallowing anyway. Week 5 and 6 was just awful. The pain was just dreadful. And everything I've got going inside me is going
Did you get
through.
anything for the pain?
Oh, yeah, morphine. I was on liquid morphine straight away. And everything was on a syringe that went on this pipe that went into my stomach. There was nothing went by mouth at all. So it was like a 15 milliliter syringe. And you had to have all my water through that, because you still got to try and have 3 liters of water a day.
Yeah.
And all the other bit, but I was on liquid nourishment foods. Everything just went through the pipe. So that was it. And then by week 6, it was just dreadful. When you stop, you carry on cooking, same as a microwave. So week 7 and week 8 are just the worst. And then it was interesting. It started falling off really quickly, that I could start speaking again. Then I started on some scrambled eggs, and then just very light foods. And here I am 5 years on, and I still struggle. He told me, Dr. Grant, at the time, he said, "You'll probably always want a bottle of water with you, and you'll probably always have some extra gravy on your food." And he was kind of dead right with that. So that was really the start of it, and how I went through the treatment fairly briefly. Anyway.
And your first reaction to stage 3 cancer, I mean, that must have hit hard. And
well, it does. The staging didn't, and you kind of look things up and you shouldn't, because there's just too much on the internet. But equally, I suppose you can learn to get through all the dross and that. Stage 3 is, I mean, it's still curable at that stage. And I was having what was called curative radiotherapy. It was intended to be cured, and it can be. So you have to take that as a positive. It's only when it spreads, and some people it does, some people it doesn't. It's interesting, actually. I'm going to call him a mate, really. We were in the waiting room, just got talking. He was only about a week in front of me in his treatment. And so we've gone through exactly the same thing. It's just like a week different. Now, I think 3 months on is your first scan after you've had your planning scans. So you've had a set of scans before before and after, if you like. So yeah, get all the before scans, and that becomes their reference point. The next set of scans are in September. And they did pick up, in fact, I'm sure they said, and I've got it in my blog, that there were some little nodules they saw on one lung on the original scans, but not enough to make any decision about. Hard to say, it's not, the whole thing's not an exact science. They're looking at, when you look at one of these scans, and I've seen enough images now, there's kind of all bits of stuff in there. So you can't blame anybody to say, "Oh, that should have been cancer." Could have been anything. Could have been anything. But in September, they were fairly sure there was some nodules that were looking like cancerous. So that's metastasized. That means that the cancer has moved from its original site, and then it's gone to a secondary site, and it's called secondary cancer, or it's called metastatic cancer. But it changes from then it's incurable. There's something happens in the makeup of the cancer as well. When it travels around your body, then it becomes incurable.
Really,
So,
always.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that becomes stage 4. Not a matter of the size of the tumor anymore, because it's actually already moved. It is stage 4 cancer. And by and large, as far as I know, it's pretty much incurable at that point.
Okay.
There may be some stuff going on in trials now where they're actually, so no, don't take that as the final medical thing from me, but pretty much if once it's spread, then it's a thing. And I remember them calling me and letting me know straight away. Said, "Do we just want to come in and we discuss the scans?" And I remember them saying, "Look, it was one of the senior registrars, not the consultant, and she'd said to me at the time, I think, look, should have been the consultant probably telling you this, but I thought, knowing you might kind of want to know." So so I did know, and that's a hard one. That's the one that really hits. When it's curative radiotherapy, you've got a chance. It's going to be you've always got a chance.
Yeah.
But now it's so it become terminal then. I mean, it's nearly 5 years ago I've been living with terminal.
Yeah.
They call it terminal cancer.
Yeah. And you, and then like Samras.
Yeah, look, I don't know how we take it. We've had enough tears and we've had enough laughter. We have to, people look at us sometimes when we're in conversation and we're saying totally what they don't expect, because we have to be a bit light-hearted about it at times.
How long did it take you to tell the rest of your family, your kids, your ex-wife, Christine?
I can't remember exactly. I know I've been fairly upfront with them. We've got I was fairly upfront and I was fairly quick. I let people, I mean, there's no point in fanning around with it, really. Once you got it, you got it. It's not going to change.
The word got out. I mean, like you told me quite early as well. So
yeah, I mean, different people do different things.
Yeah.
I find getting it out there helps me.
Yeah.
Other people keep it all inside. There's no right and wrong with this.
Yeah. No,
I mean, the whole thing of writing a blog is therapeutic for me.
Yeah. I'm like that.
Sorry?
I'm like that. So I relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, So, but others, and there's no right and wrong way to deal with this. I don't know. I still don't know all these years on what I feel about it. I mean, it's hard because we're not really quite wired to accept this.
No.
And yet there are things that are far worse, I think, than cancer. But there are people with other things I think are far worse than cancer.
All right.
I think, but cancer still seems to get the big, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that." Well, God, I don't think I'd want blind from birth. Fancy being like that, never knowing, seeing anything, seeing colours, seeing people, I think that's what a life of darkness.
And not being able to describe them. If you've had sight, then afterwards someone can describe. It's a red one.
So a life.
Or she's a blonde with a southern accent.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I've got it. That's it. I've got it, and we've dealt with it as best as we can. I guess it's what I'm saying. Emotionally, physically. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and like you said, not the way you'd want to spend your golden years.
No, very much so. I mean, out of this, anything I'm talking about on here, I'm really not talking about for sympathy. I'm just saying it as it is.
Right.
and things I'll say are for context rather than looking for sympathy. I never look for sympathy in it. And in fact, some of the Twitter groups and things like that, they're forever day. Oh, wish me luck. I'm going for a scan. Well, so what? A lot of them are just mute now. I can't stand them anymore. A lot of them. I mean, just deal with it for goodness sakes,
Yeah. Totally have.
Um, so yeah, yeah, I don't know. Just go along with it.
So you mentioned that reminded you of your upbringing, your kid.
It did, yeah. I mean, I suppose the one thing I was a bit racked off with was, you know, well, some people say you work your whole life and then you die. Well, I've not quite done that bit yet, and a lot of people that do that, don't they? They just get retirement and bang, gone.
Yeah.
But you like to think you're going to see your kind of golden years out doing bits, playing with the grandchildren, all the stuff that you do when you're older. And that does get taken away from you.
Yeah.
I wake up thinking about my cancer. I think about it 100 times during the day, and I go to sleep thinking about it. And that's pretty much every day.
I was going to ask that. Is it worse at night when it's dark? I mean, I'm presuming there
I
must
don't, sorry.
be fear sometimes.
No, sorry, I don't think like that. It's always just there because
All right.
I can feel it. I mean, there's quite a bit of pain goes with this.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's reminding me all the time.
Right.
So yeah. So in terms of the general thing of how I feel in my later years, I could say I feel a bit cheated. Mostly because I've got to think about it. Like I say, people, they live their lives almost by chance. You get to retirement age and you end up in a car crash, under a bus, or whatever. There's 1,000 ways of going. It's just not a matter of cancer, but it's a life sentence. Once you've got incurable cancer, you've got incurable cancer. Yeah. So whatever they do is just what we call palliative treatment.
Yeah,
it's just to keep you comfortable. So that's where we are. And yeah, as I'd started writing, I did feel a bit cheated in my later life, and it did make me think about. I'm going to say I had a miserable, if that's what you're asking me, about my earlier years.
Yeah.
When I started this project, it did make me focus more. It's not. I mean, I've got to say, it's not something I really have thought about too much over the years, particularly. But it did make me focus a little bit when I started writing down. And I thought, yeah, I did have a pretty miserable time, really, all the way through till I got married, I'm going to say.
And
first time.
You went to school in Stoke Newington?
Well, it was at Old Street, so it was kind of borderline of Shoreditch and Islington. It was down City. It's where City Road and Old Street cross.
So, is there anyone in your family a gooner? You were walking distance from Highbury.
Tell me about it, mate. No. In fact, I'd rather have double cancer than be a gooner. No, mate. Excuse me. If I wanted to live in my old man was from Manchester, my dad.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to live in his house, you had to be a Man United supporter.
So the whole family?
The whole family, all of us, even now, Sam Ross, Nisa, everybody.
See, to me, that's as bad a sentence as you have for me.
It's child cruelty, really, for some of them, grandchildren and that, having to sit watch United games. I tell you something, it's not easy for me to watch United games at the minute. Right. But no, in seriousness, it wasn't much fun growing up, going to school there where it was either Spurs or it was either Tottenham or Arsenal. I mean, you could hear the ground from where we lived. When there was a goal scored, when there was a goal scored, you could hear the crowd. All 15 of them.
I'll let it slide.
Yeah, growing up. I mean, that one didn't hurt, but no, it was just a miserable time. I think I never had I can't think of many happy moments in 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't, no, I can't.
And that's because of your dad?
Yeah, yeah, he was um it's your dad, but I can't muster any nice thoughts about him. He's been dead since he died in around 1990, I think. He was born in he was born in 31 and he died the year when he was 59. So I don't know, it's about 1990. Never been back to his grave since the day he was buried. Got no thought of going back there. Got no respect, no nice thoughts. It's awful, really, that
That's what it is, huh?
that sons and dads are supposed to be like,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't know exactly what word you put on that, but yeah, I've got no happy thoughts of my whole upbringing, for sure. He was a violent man. I'm going to say that. He was, he did his national service or whatever it was. He stayed on after his time. His whole conversation, it seemed, was around army stories and Korea or Malaysia or whatever, or whether it was shooting up the bar in Singapore, which I thought was a load of bollocks. Anyway, in Raffles or something in Singapore, well, no, I don't believe they shot a bar up. But
No.
but that was him. It seemed like it was all he knew. And then it followed on with the violence against me. I'm going to be honest.
Do you think that was like that stemmed out? Did he have any trauma during his ministry?
I don't know.
No.
Everybody has a bit of trauma. Oh no, everybody. I don't know. I've never been shot at like by
No.
North Koreans, and I really don't know. I understand he was a medic,
Okay.
okay, which is kind of good, but I think that keeps you off the front line. And I don't know. I don't know how much he actually got involved in real
All right.
shooting stuff. Okay. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say with him. Look, all kids, boys especially, get up to capers. I mean, I've never stole anything. I've never did drugs. All of the things that you could be really disciplined for. Sure, I mean, yeah, I played truant. I don't know. I mean, but I never did anything that I would call really bad,
No, no.
except being a lad and getting in scrapes. I don't mean fights. I just mean things. I couldn't really say anything in particular all these years on, but it just seemed to be that it would be almost nothing to end up on the end of a bloody good beating.
All right.
You know,
And you stayed at home. You lived with him till what? You were 20?
21, I think. Yeah, 21. Yeah, I'd
Went through your whole school and getting your first job and everything.
yeah. And I was apprentice. That's what he wanted me to be. I mean, Musk. I did it all in afterwards. I wasted my time at school. I got through the 11 plus. Went to a grammar school. Got chosen for grammar school. Central Foundation Boys Grammar. Good school at the time. I don't know now. They're comprehensives now, but it was proper grammar school. It's a boys' school. So I must have had something about me, but then I just couldn't stand it at school. I was lazy. I didn't do anything. My reports were grim. And that would always get you another whack in as well. you
Yeah.
know, uh, 15 was the school leaving age then.
Yeah.
And that was me. I was turfed out the door at
That's me
15.
too.
Wasn't quite expelled. I think it was, a matter of who
Exactly
jumped,
for
pushed
me.
or jumped. It didn't matter. So I was out of school at 15, same as a lot of boys
I
and
was
girls.
told it was a waste of time for me to stay there.
Yeah, one of the teachers wrote he should, because I didn't do anything, I couldn't be asked at school, and we'll never forget. Even my mum remembers this one on the report. Said he should be well rested for the start of his working life. It was just one of those great teacher lines. Anyway, so I mean, how he used to be in, I say, those days, but it's like 50 years ago, more, isn't it? 60 years ago, and when we were, no, 50 something years ago, the school gates opened and the factory gates opened, and most just went from one to the other.
Yeah.
They went straight into work as an apprentice or whatever, and that was me. He worked on the local borough. There was a lot of direct labourers, huge council housing program going on then, same as they're kind of alluding to now. Can't see that
Yep.
happen, but anyway, they're alluding to it. That was the last thing I ever wanted to do, work on a bloody building site. I used to really enjoy mechanicking. I've understood engines and that for years and stuff, but no, be a joiner, be a carpenter. Oh,
You're talking, what was it, your Ford Anglia Cortina that you stripped?
yeah, stripped engines down. I mean, that come a bit later than 15. I must have been driving then, but I could, the old push rod engines as they were. I could strip one down, right the way down, the valves, head off, everything, de-coke, as they called it in those days. Put it all back together. Remember, turn the key in the engine and it just started. I mean, fantastic. I would have enjoyed that, I think, being a mechanic, but not a carpenter. So then I had a few more years of not enjoying things, really. And I left as soon as I could get out of my apprenticeship. I did as well, really. So I don't know if that's I don't know what's made me a lifetime of lurching from one thing to another.
You had time to go to Pontins in Jersey, though, right?
I did. Well, yeah, that was that was
Jersey?
a trip.
How Jersey?
Huh?
Why Jersey all
I
places?
don't know. Oh, I'd been there with my parents before. We'd gone there on holiday, and it wasn't a nice holiday as I remember. I mean, it was no fun for me. I mean, we just sit there most days. I think we went on a couple of excursions. I don't remember much about it with my mum and dad. But Jersey itself was nice. And I went with a mate from school. With two of us. We were like 18, I think, 17 or 18. Good mates. And it was not difficult to get to. It didn't, in fact, I don't think he used to fly in those days. You used to get the train down to Weymouth and then get on a boat that took you all the way to Jersey. And that was it. And we stayed at Pontins, and it was great fun. I know why you're asking me. That was my first taste of a woman. Literally, I don't know about literally, but yeah, we got there on this, as you do on a Saturday holiday, and a Sunday morning we'd met our Shelley maid come round, and we just got some bottles of drink anyway, and they sat down drinking with us. That was it through the afternoon, and then she just stayed. That was the name. 23 years old, from Blackburn, I remember. She was nice anyway, yeah. So it all happened, but it was all a bit messy. And that was first experience, and it wasn't a good one.
Pontins. You're probably not the
yeah.
only one.
Oh, mate, I tell you, in fact, it's a wreck. I looked online not long ago, not about this, and the place is a wreck. The swimming pool's got half the chalets in it, and it's I don't know, maybe it's all been redeveloped now. It was a while ago I looked, but yeah, there was some happy memories from that trip, I have to say, yeah, for sure.
And now we're in the period when you met Christine the first time.
Yeah, that was I was 19, we were 19. There's only 10 or 11 days. There's not much difference between us in age, less than 2 weeks. So we both must have been 19. And in fact, the same mate got married up in Cheshire for convoluted reasons, up in Congleton. And did I want to be his best man? Which yes, sure. And I was going out. No, I'm not saying I was going out. I did have a bit of a girlfriend. I mean, I never had proper girlfriends either, really. And he said, no, don't bring her, just come up, you know. So I did. And because I didn't have anybody with me, so I was there, I was his best man. We did the speeches stuff and all of it. And this Christine, I mean, she just like seemed nice. And we spoke a little bit, few times during the day, and then spent a bit of time in the evening at the reception, and yeah, that was it really. But no, it seemed really, really quite nice. So yeah, that's where I met Christine, and in a by chance circumstance.
And she was
That
living up there in Congleton.
she's from Congleton, and she worked with the bride, my mates,
Okay.
who just invited a few friends along from work, kind of thing. So that was it, and that's where we met at Asbury Village Hall, just outside of Congleton, and that's where we met. And the village hall is still there.
And then
Yeah.
that turned into
Then that turned into a long distance courtship.
Yeah.
But I was a bit free and easy by then. I used to drive up, just see her weekend, things like that. I could stay at their house. They've got they made a spare bedroom. Nice working class family, no airs and graces. That went on for a couple of years. In fact, then she moved to London, stayed with my, I remember saying at one point we were getting more serious, and and we said, well, maybe we got to like get together, but you'll never catch me living up there. Big balls, right. Big balls Londoner. So she did move down and stayed with my great grandmother, actually. But that didn't really work properly. The whole thing didn't work properly. So I said, okay, let me, I'll move up with you up there. So that was it. 21, I did move. And 21 later in November 1976, we were married. Yeah. And done.
And that was the start of that.
And that was the start of that. And it was a long marriage, 26 years, and it wasn't all wrong, or it wasn't all bad. But I'm not even going to go analysing why marriages break up. I've tried. I tried to write it down. I think maybe we were just, I don't know, more friends than lovers. I don't know what now. I can compare a marriage now. Right. It's just different. I'm not going to say it was bad.
No.
But it was different,
and you were young and you got married.
Yes, and maybe that was part of it. You've not done all your bits that you want to do. I don't know. We did all what we could do stuff. We said we would be. I think we'd agreed. However, we'd agreed that we would get ourselves financially sound before we had a family. So it was like 10 years we'd already got our second house by the time Rachel came along in 1985. But that was all planned. Funny how it went, really. After about 4 years, you started getting parents going, thought we might have been grandparents by now. And you go, no, it's okay, we're doing what we're doing. Then they would keep on with that. And then after about 7 years, 8 years, they'd go quiet, because then they're probably thinking, maybe they can't have kids. But it wasn't that either. As soon as we wanted to start a family, we started a family. And it was right. In that 10 years, we got ourselves financially stable. We both had quite good jobs by then. Yep. We were in our second house. And everything was fine. We'd had our overseas holidays, and things like all the things that you can do. So we did all of that. But it was all planned how we did things. So yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, that's about work, because that kind of defines a little bit the way your life went, right? What jobs you had, didn't have.
And I was in still a bit of a mess when I went up career-wise. I was supposedly a qualified carpenter, but I couldn't really I couldn't really work as a carpenter. I was too slow. I'll be honest. Too slow. I couldn't stand it. Probably wasn't accurate enough. Um, Christine's uncle, but in fact, my next door neighbour in Stoke Newington worked for the railway, and her uncle up in Cheshire worked for British Rail Engineering at Crewe Works. I mean, it was their biggest locomotive works for 100 years. I
All right.
mean, employed, I don't know, at its heyday, maybe 20 or 30,000 people. I mean, it was massive, the works. And it was like a job for life, as they used to call it, if you can get in Crewe Works. And
Yeah.
most people around there, they work for, most men work for British Rail or they work for Rolls-Royce, because Rolls-Royce were in Crewe at the time as well. And they work for one or the other,
Like,
They were the two huge employers in Crewe. So they were looking, it seemed that, I don't remember it all, but they were obviously looking for carpenters, because I remember going up for an interview, and then the next time I went up, I was walking in with a toolbox. So I'd got the job and everything,
yeah.
and it was the start of a job for life, except it was a job for like 6 months for me. I couldn't stand it. It was just a totally different environment. I mean, amazing when I think back. I mean, most of it's gone now, it's all been demolished and all
Yeah.
outsourced to Romania and whatever, locomotive building or whatever they do. But yeah, it was a fascinating place, but it wasn't for me. And I was like lurching around, what am I going to do? I've got a trade, but I can't hold it down. I've got to make money. And then somebody said, well, what about going like on the buses? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. So I did that. Applied there at Macclesfield. Can't remember how I applied. But again, in that, it seemed like you could just almost walk into a job. So you start off, they train you, you get your license. Some people stay on local buses. But I moved to, there was a coach company right across the road from where we were living in Congleton at the time. So I just walked across the road and said, any jobs? And they said, they give me a driving test. And I started there. So that was different. And it was a fun job. That was like,
Yeah.
day trips and tours. Sometimes I could take Christine away with me on tour for a week, which, it did. It was all right, but it still wasn't I was thinking I was something I was going to do for life, really. But the interesting bit, I suppose I just missed talking to you, and it was what really defined things, was when I was still at building, like when I was an apprentice, we were at building college, and ours was at Hackney Technical College, or Hackney Building
Right.
College, Hackney Tech. And we used to, so we had to go there for our practical stuff as carpenters, but I'd also got involved, and I can't remember exactly what drifted me into concrete, of all things. It was about when we were doing formwork. I remember that bit, shuttering,
Right.
and the new types they're explaining of formwork, because they were just coming up with all this aluminium modular stuff at that point as well. Why they were introducing that to carpenters was beyond me, but there you are. And we used to get lecturers come in from an organisation called the CNCA. It doesn't exist anymore. The Cement and Concrete Association. And these guys used to come across and talk about formwork, and then about ready mixed concrete or mixed concrete and cement. And that did get my attention. So I did an extra City and Guilds in that, in concrete practice at the time, but I never kind of saw where you would get a job with it properly. I never really tried that hard, I don't suppose. But then when I was up in Congleton and I was driving my coaches around and I wasn't happy, and I still used to go down the, I suppose it wasn't called the job centre then. I think it might have still been the Labour Exchange. You
Right.
went in and they got these boards, like racks with little cards in, and that was the job. And you could kind of pull the card out and have a read, or as I remember. And then if you was interested, you took the card to the office window, and then they would do whatever, make an appointment for an interview or So it all happened a bit quickly. I remember I'd had a word. I think the guy that became my boss, he came down there, and then I didn't have a car, and he said, "Can you come up?" It was at Goresworth, about 5 or 6 miles away, where their office was. And they said, "Could you get here?" And I said, "Well, I haven't got a car really." And he said, "I'll come and pick you up." I mean, they were more desperate than me for a job. That was it for someone. And anyway, when I said got a concrete practice certificate, they're like, "Oh wow, yeah, okay, when can you start?" So I started, and I started as a concrete technician, which was just doing little bits of testing, on-site testing in the lab. They got a little lab there at Goresworth. So that's how I started in 1979. About April 79, I started there. And I was
You're like
determined.
24.
Sorry?
You're about 24.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, about 23 or 24.
It's still young.
And I was determined that I think I felt like I'd hit rock bottom just walking in a labour exchange, even though I wasn't out of work. I felt like I'd hit, and I wasn't going to be in that position again. So I really, really worked at the job. I enjoyed the job, so that helps. And I kind of went through the ranks pretty quickly. By 25, 1985, I was assistant technical manager. I think a couple of years after that, I was at 27. I was an area technical manager. I was the youngest area technical manager in the company. We had, it was Tarmac was a international company by then. And we had probably 9 different areas that would split the country up. And mine was Northwest England. And yeah, I was the youngest of the technical managers by quite a shot. And I was influential. My opinion was asked about a lot of things. I enjoyed it, and I worked hard, and I was actually pretty good at it. So I was there for 13 years. I was there for 13 years.
You worked anywhere else?
Sorry, mate.
Have you worked anywhere else for that long? I don't.
No, maybe kitchen business was about as long, but that was it. And yeah, but we were all, everybody was a bit entrepreneurial. It was a style that they wanted of all their managers to be quite. They were Tarmac. I mean, they're a great company. At the time, they were making mega money, and they were very much a lot of companies preach it, but they don't practice it. But they were great at their bottom up management.
Right.
In an area, in a region, in an area, like I say, there were probably 10 different areas. The management team, which would be the boss, the area manager. Then under him, he would have his departmental heads, production, sales, technical. Between us all, we would do our budgets for the following year. Then my boss and his boss would sit with the board and agree that budget or different. But then once you come up with a figure, that was you. Just get on with it. Hit your budget that you said you're going to do. Great. Don't hit it. And they were pretty ruthless like that also, Tarmac. Then you knew it. And you all worked hard at it. So yeah, they developed this entrepreneurial style. They also liked you on the move. So companies would, they'd wanted me to move 2 or 3 times to different places. And I kept turning them down because Christine really didn't want to move. And are you all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry, there's a bunch of stuff under the desk.
The mouse looked like there was a mouse running around.
Right.
It's all right. I can trim that as well. Don't worry.
Good. Yeah. But it's
Are you
I
okay?
try to move my feet, and there's a ton of stuff under the desk.
Are you okay?
Yeah, now I'm good.
Right. All right.
Now he's moved it.
Yeah. So we we were all entrepreneurial, even the technical people, or certainly me. And they also wanted they liked their managers on the move. And yes, it did move you up. I mean, that's no different to lots of other companies. But I wasn't really, you know, we got kids at school. Christine wasn't much for moving. I couldn't say I was much for moving. They wanted me to go down to Newbury. That was around the time when the Greenham Common developments were all going on. Because Tarmac were heavily involved in the construction. That was for the cruise missiles.
Oh,
Just seemed to be. Also, I'd worked as part of my area, but at Barrow in Finesse, where the building to build the 4 Trident submarines. I was technical manager there for that whole job. Then the next thing that went in the Trident program was the facility to service the submarines at Fastlane in Scotland, and they wanted me to move up there. And I turned that one down, and I thought slowly they're going to want me out of here because I kept turning these jobs down, you know.
yeah.
So I thought I better do something. I don't know what made me think I better do something else, but it just kind of happened that way. The one night I was in Redcar. We were up there for a technical managers meeting the next day at because we had a site at Redcar in the steelworks. We used to process the slag there. And there was this little advert. I don't know, I got the Redcar Evening Mail or whatever it was in my little pokey hotel room there. And I saw this little small ad that said, "Don't change your whole kitchen, just change the doors." And I thought, what a bloody good idea. You know, and I don't know, a little bit of my carpentry background just come back in my head. And I thought, that might not be too difficult. So I started a little bit of research. And yeah, I thought this could work actually. And I've got one of my mates, a good friend of his, I knew the guy, was a carpenter. And I ran it by him. I said, look, you know, if I could get some work doing this, would you be interested in doing the fitting? And he was like, yeah, I'll give it a try, you know, and we worked out a rate for doing it. And it just kind of took off. So I've got 2 hats then and 2 jobs. During the day, I was a top line technical manager. And in the evening, I got my bag of samples, or door samples. We got some small ads running in the local paper, and I was going out measuring up kitchens for new doors. And
Well,
then,
you're industrious, was it?
yeah. So, and then that really moved on. And then people were asking me about kitchens.
How did you advertise it from the start? How did people?
Just started in a small ad in the Congleton Chronicle, a local paper.
Yeah.
Then we did some in the Staffordshire Evening Centre. Oh, that was Stoke-on-Trent. Then we actually did some radio adverts on Signal Radio, as it was, a local radio station. That worked better than I thought it would, actually. Surprising. And I got involved in all of this. I kind of wrote most of the script for that. And then they got a couple of voice actors that did it. And husband and wife are talking about, it was a breakfast type. Like they're having, I remember it now, the background there, crockery kind of banging a bit. And she's talking about going on holiday and he's talking about having a new car. And then they said, oh, hang on a minute, what's this here? You could just have the new doors. That would save us the money. We could do both. And that was that was the kind of script I wrote. And then anyway, it works. It was so we you know, the business built up a bit. It was working from home. And I was buying stuff, you know, we'd found places that would cut the doors to the size we wanted and made everything. All we had to do was go and fit them. But I say all we had to do, people also want worktops doing and stuff like that. So it became that became a business the way it was going. And then me, Mr. I don't know, Mr. Industrious, in let me see, I don't know what year, but it was early days. We started it in 1987. In about 88 or 89, I bought our first laptop. Cost that was a Toshiba, cost over £2,000 then. Right. MS-DOS laptop computer, and a plotter, a Roland plotter. There was an A3, would take A3 paper with 8 pens, and it would pick the pens up and draw a bit, put the pen back, pick up the next one. And it's fantastic. So I'd got that, I've got the plotter, and I'd take it out to the houses. And I would sometimes, I'd keep it in the car, but if it was like the kind of kitchen I could draw up fairly quickly in an hour or so, I would do it there and then. I would design it on my laptop. I'd go and get my plotter. I'd draw it all up, and it would do my perspective and some plans, and bam, and the price. So that was it. That was me. And we were getting busier. So we thought maybe we start making our own doors. So we jumped into rented our first workshop, 1,800 square feet in Congleton, bought machines, wood machines for cutting all the stuff and edging and doing, and just got busier again. Then we built a little showroom on it. People were coming in, tripping over bits of wood. So then we made a bit of a showroom at the side. And then about 92, I think, I saw an advert for a building for sale, freehold building, in the hands of the receivers. It was an ex-builder, actually, that I knew that had gone bust. And I just did it on the phone. I spoke to the receivers and I said, I haven't got that guy. It was 95,000, I think.
It's kind of cool that, like, it fell into place. You had your carpentry, which you hated, but like that helped to do it. And then you had your management job with Tarmac, where you even learned about budgeting and stuff. So
exactly, yeah.
You had a skill set to give you a good start.
Exactly. And it all works. So in 92, the opportunity just came when they were having another big reorganization at Tarmac and moving all the people around again. And what they had for me was, a lot of people went that day. I remember my director saying to me, there's a lot gone, Marie, you've got a job. Like it was such a big thing, but you've got to do all of this now. And I'd already done all of that in the past, and it didn't work then. And I said, it ain't going to work now. I said, I'm not doing it. And he said, well, you'll have to go then. I said, well, that's fine. Just work out. And I thought, and it's everybody that does this is faced with the same problem. So now I've got my Tarmac income and my kitchen income, whatever it was. So you're at 130% of where you want to be. But as soon as you leave one job, which people are faced with, it goes back down to about 70 or 60. And then you've got to build it up again to at least get to your 100 that you need.
Yeah.
So but I went home and I spoke to Christine and I said, this is what's happening, Chris. And if I leave, they're going to, I think I'd only got my holiday pay. I mean, they don't give you anything over the top. Right. But the redundancy was my 3 months pay in lieu of notice and a bit of holiday pay. I could cash in my share option thing at that point because which was just savings, not share. Well, no, it was shares. Anyway, I left that there and then. And there was another job, I walked out from there after 13 years. I went from my boss's office to my office and I had someone with me, make sure I didn't steal anything. That really pissed me off, actually.
Corporate stuff.
Picked up my diary, the calculator and a few other bits, and that was me, out of there, gone. Never looked back. Never looked back. I remember the next day walking into our industrial unit and saying to my mate, well, I'm done now. He said, well, you better get some overalls on. I said, I tell you what, mate, you stick with the overalls, I'll stay with the suit. I'll sell it, you make it. Right. And it just went from strength to strength, like I say. Bye. And we did. We were really good. In fact, I go to Congress now to see my grandkids and that. And it's like every third house has got one of our kitchens in, or did have. It was a great little business, it really was. But I managed to ruin that as well.
Yeah, well, that's one way of putting it.
I mean,
we can get into that further down the road.
We did well. I mean, started off, well, rags to riches. No, it wasn't that kind of. We weren't millionaires out of it, but back in the day, me and me mate, we started off, like I say, working in from home in my garage, just sorting the doors out really for him to pick them up. And when we finished up, we were about £700,000 a year, I think we were doing. It was all up front, all paid, tax paid, everything done. Didn't know when it stopped, he didn't know anybody any money. In fact, we still come out in front as the dust settled and we'd sold everything off. We were like kind of.
When did that happen?
Huh?
What year was that you packed it up?
1990, when it all went wrong, when the marriage broke up, when I just said to my mate, have what you like. I mean, we didn't, I could have done, I should have done, I must have done, but I didn't, different things. Should have sold it to, I just gave him what I just walked away from it, really. Whatever he wanted to do, he could do.
Keep going.
Yeah. Only on one side, we've got some contract work, just where he didn't have to sell. It was builders we were working for. They were just in drawings, and we worked for him for quite some years. So they had no real reason to stop. And I know he didn't stop. He carried on with it. We ended up not talking after a while. He just went his way. I went mine. But
still like that?
Huh?
It's still like that?
No. He died some years ago, and then it just stopped. So. Stopped altogether. But at the point, like I say, where I left, I could have done it differently, perhaps should have done it differently. My head was in the wrong place. I was having these antidepressants, I think we're going to talk about at some point.
Yeah.
And everybody, the real specialists, my doctor, the not psychiatrist, but whatever they were that I was seeing, were saying, don't make any fundamental decisions when you're feeling like this.
Which you did.
Which I did, yeah. So I'm not sure they were the right decisions, but they were the decisions I made, and sometimes I'm still what's the word? Not suffering, but the outcome of some of those decisions then are still affecting me now. Certainly financially, I should have planned things better then. But I didn't, because I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. My head was not in the right place. I'm putting it down to that. I can look back and say that my head wasn't in the right place.
Happens.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where we are.
That part of what we're doing here as well, like there's a lot of decisions, things go good and everything, but don't be all mistakes as well.
Yeah, we just have to reflect sometimes. I think the thing is, make sure you don't make the same mistakes.
That's all you can do, right?
I guess so. That's what comes out of it.
But that's how you got into. It was through the kitchen business that you got your interest in these touchscreen kiosks, right?
Well, yeah, that was.
That's kind of funny because we'll get into it, but they did become a trend. Because when I was in New York, and that must have been around about 2000, I went into the Levi's store on Fifth Avenue. And they had a touchscreen kiosk there where I could custom build a pair of my own jeans, which I did. If you wanted high waist, low waist, if you wanted faded or stone,
that's what was happening.
Skinny leg, narrow leg, comfort.
Yeah,
and
that's what was happening. And the touchscreen industry was on fire. And this was another thing I'd started learning. This was my next career. And it started off from our trade press. And, we were like every industry, we have our trade focused press. And one of the editors, he was always he's still a nice enough guy, I guess. But he could be a bit controversial in his leader that he would write every month. And he was quite right. The kitchen industry, the retailers, the moaners, the doers, the lazy, the really get up and go. It's got everybody that makes an industry. I'm talking, these are kitchen businesses that sell to the public, kitchen showrooms. I'm not saying anything disparaging about any of them, but you know, you get your moaners and your whinges. Oh, bloody hell, got B&Q opening down the road. And yeah, I don't know how that's going to go. Well, if they're good enough, B&Q and MFI as it was, and they wouldn't make a difference. The real competitors are the car industry and the holiday industry. A lot of us used to say they were selling the same ticket price that we were. And that was a household's decision. Would they have a big holiday or would they have the kitchen?
And the
Would
holiday
they
next
the holiday? And they're all purchases that could be put off for a year. No, you know, I mean, unless the kitchen was falling apart. So no, we'll have the holiday this year, we'll have the kitchen next year. But I tell you what, let's get a price so they get someone in who's got no chance of selling to them. Unless he's really good, in which case they'll have the kitchen this year and the holiday next year. That would be my kind of job to do that, you see, to turn them around. So anyway, that was so he'd written this article 1 month and said that I think it was Hyundai were doing this new style of showroom, where they've got touchscreens, I guess a bit like your Levi guys. And people would go in and they could select all the variables. So you've got your motor car. But then the variables, what color, what alloy with, what wheels, and automatic or manual, and the bits that go on. And they could select all of that. And they said they'd got administrators. They weren't our salesmen that would come along and they would just finalize things and then press the button. It would give them a printout of everything that they spoke about. And do you want to put a deposit on that? Done. And some of the letters that came back, you know, and he was saying, why as an industry aren't we moving forward like this? And the replies, you know, the next couple of months, people were going, you know, oh, if we got a multi-billion-pound back in like Hyundai, we could perhaps do this and da-da-da-da. And I'm just sitting there thinking, can't be that difficult, surely. This is almost a bit like a website. You know, the web was just coming into play in those days. And I'm thinking, this is almost a bit like a website, a touchscreen thing. You've got your basic thing and you pick a few more bits and the price would change on screen and then you decide. So that was it. I had just got it in my mind and I don't know why it got me the way it did. But I spoke to my local business link guy, business advisor. And I asked him if he knew somebody that could do some programming, wasn't going to charge me a fortune, but it was an interesting little project. Something might come of it, something might not. And he did introduce me to this lad, Andy. And Andy was, I'm going to say, he was just an absolute whiz. I know people can say, oh, he's really good at programming. He had a forensic ability with code. Wow. He could, oh my God, yeah, he was good and then some. Of course, that comes with his own issues. I mean, like the rest of us, also half crazy. He could blow up in a moment, then you'd all have to bloody disappear for a couple of hours till he calmed down and started tapping away again, but he would do. But he got it as well. He got it, what I was thinking about. So between us, we did come up with a system that worked. And the real problem that retailers had, and you might be able to relate to this quickly. So you've got your kitchen showroom, you're a kitchen owner now, or no, you're the customer. You walk into my showroom and you have a look around all these bits of displays and you don't know whether you're in a £5,000 kitchen studio or a £50,000 kitchen studio. And first thing you want to know is, am I in the right place at least? So you kind of say to the guy, you ever walk around for a few minutes with your wife, whatever. Then the guy comes along and says, are you doing that? Are you okay there, mate? Yeah. And you'll ask, how much is that there? Because you want to know, you know, and you're thinking, I've got 3 times what that bit is. But you want to know where you are. So, and the guy says, I can't really tell you. Because like, there's all these things that you might need and that might. And you're thinking, mate, just tell me roughly how much it is. So you most likely will walk out. because he's not done the first basic thing of give you a little bit of an idea, at least.
Yeah.
So this came over that because he said, okay, you know, we knew that most kitchens fall into 4 or 5 different layouts. The size actually don't matter that much. If a room is 14 foot long rather than 10 foot long, it doesn't make the kitchen 40% dearer. It's probably only another couple of units that make up that difference. The money is in turning up and doing everything, and the people, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, so labor, delivery costs.
Yeah, so we just could put up, the first thing they saw was a rough layout of things. And does your kitchen look like that or look like that? Oh, it goes, yeah, it's a bit like that, really. Okay, pick that one. Now, and then we just pick the variables. Because the laminate door or the wooden door or the vinyl wrap door, all the things that would make a big difference to the price. First thing they'd pick. Then the different worktop types, not worktop, so granite, laminate, wood, whatever, you know, silkstone. They would just pick that, and then it would almost give them the first price on the screen there and then. Then, do you need some appliances? Oh yeah, we're going to need an oven, and we're going to. So you pick all the appliances. Then it puts a price in front of them, and it's that price says 7,400. But not only, and it says, look, based on what you've told me, and we know that it could be different with your specific room, but you're somewhere around that figure, maybe within 10% or so. They loved it. The people loved it. Within a few, they've got an idea. Now, they know what they've got to spend. And if they've only got £3,000 to spend, they're in the wrong place.
No.
If they know that, if they've got 5 or 6, but they like look at that at 7, they would say, okay, next step, let's come down and have a measure up properly. That's all we wanted as a kitchen retailer, to do that, to qualify the prospects. We could do other things with it. We introduced finance on the screen. And as I used to say, people can have whatever they like in the showroom for £200 a month. It's only a matter of how long they pay for it. And that's very, very true in selling finance to finance. And most things are financed. So that was it. That was what we built. I thought it was going to be a self-selection thing. The customer would walk up and tap, tap, tap. It actually came better. It worked as a presenter. The person in the showroom actually did the tap, tap, tapping on the screen and asking them the questions. Do you need this? Do you need that? And that's how we marketed it to the trade. The first ones were magnet kitchens back in the day. I had a lot of meetings with them. I had to change things to suit them. But then it went as part of their rollout, and they've got quite an expansion program. And we went into 30-something showrooms there. And by then I was, trade stuff in America. I got invited. It was getting known. And of course, the guy that was first writing about it, he was interested in how I was developing because it came from his writing. So he don't call it his baby, but he was always interested. He was always on my side. So I got a bit of promotion there, and other publicity, the same. So it became quite a bit of a thing that took me to America in the end because I thought that's where it would really happen. I was wrong.
Right. Yeah.
I was wrong.
So you started, but you did start producing these kiosks, right?
We did, and part of it I drove. I don't know. Part of it I drove. Part of it you got to be in the right place at the right time.
I mean, how big were they? How much did they weigh? How hard were they to ship?
Well, it depended. There was what we call a kiosk is really the touchscreen. Now, that could just be, by then, it could be the size of it would only be the size of let me see, maybe a 17-inch laptop screen size.
All right.
The really nice ones were just that. And then you would build it into something else. So it was almost just a screen that you were shipping. It required the processor and everything, but that would go inside the kiosk. No, the NCR one had most inside it. actually. You could build in it got the hard drive. It was a bigger piece of unit, but they could build in all of our software into the NCR touchscreen, as we called it. So some call it a kiosk. The touchscreen itself, like I say, could be about a big laptop size, maybe a 17, 19-inch laptop. Some then have a stand. Then it's a matter of how a client wanted it. Magnet built it into their display, so all you saw was a screen. Others would have it mounted on a column or something like that. I've got some photos of different ones that we've done. You know, whether I could still show them at some time if it come to it.
Yeah.
Whether I put pictures, it's whether I put photos in my book, which I'm still trying to decide on.
All right. Yeah, because what I'm curious about is then you got leads to go to a trade show, right?
Yes, well, because oh yeah, I mean there was lots of bits. I was regional chairman of our Retailers Association in the UK, the Kitchen Specialists Association.
Good job.
Mostly because I put my hand up at the wrong time, actually. And they said, who wants to be? And I didn't understand the question. I put my hand up. Right, you'll do. And it was good. And it was another one of these meeting things. And there'd be, I can't remember how many different regions, but maybe 7 or 8 different regions, each with their own chairman.
Mm-hmm.
We would meet every 3 months and try and do things. You know, this is trade association stuff.
Yeah. Did you get anything out of that, or did the business get out of you having enough?
Well, yeah. I mean, as Restyle, I mean, we saw it. I saw it when I started. It was nothing to do with touchscreens, but I did see that. I thought our business was good enough to be in the higher echelon, which is what this trade association promoted. About 200. There were about 200 retailers. Some that would just have it for the badge and pay pay whatever you paid. I can't remember, but a few £100 a year to be a member. And then you wanted to get some benefits out of that. And the benefits, they had various benefits they could offer the consumer, but it was more about trying to show that they were different to the cowboy side of the industry, of which it was decreasing, but still there, but it was diminishing, that kind of direct sell on the night kind of thing, you know. As chairman, we were looking for different initiatives that would make the association more attractive to more kitchen retailers. And we'd all have our ideas. Some we put forward that we could try and run with. Others didn't seem to make it at the time. And we're talking, I was chairman from about 96 or 97. For about 5 years, 6 years, I was chairman. I couldn't get anybody else to do it, really. But my bit was technology. And with Andy, with my partner, we were trying to introduce the internet and websites to retailers then. I mean, we were maybe just a tad too early. We could see how this was going. We were already talking. In time, you could have your own TV channel. Andy could see this, you know, streaming stuff that didn't come on for another 10 years probably, but now we take as a matter of we've got it on our phones, never mind anything else. So some people thought we were talking out of our asses, quite honestly. Some people just didn't want to get it or got closed ideas. Some people did. They started having the website. We built a new website for the association, and it was searchable. All of these things. And it got the attention of a bigger trade association in the States, the National Kitchen and Bath Association. Right. And I mean, you know, they run their own shows and things like that, big exhibitions. And through, I think, some emails and this and that, I got the right contacts in the NKBA to say, can you help me? I started like that. can you help me? Because that's always a nice opening. Can you help me? Can you help me? What would I need to do to enter the American market with this product? And they said, oh, it sounds good. I said, look, if I come over, would you give me an hour or so that I could present it? And then, wow, yeah. So yeah, go over there with more stuff. First time, I can't remember exactly when. Went to the head office.
Yeah, that's why I was curious about the size and weight. So what did you bring over with you?
Oh, I had a portable one, not much above. It went in it went in its own carry bag. It maybe just fit as a carry-on bag, that size. And it got everything in it. And then, I could carry it. In fact, smaller than a carry-on. Smaller than the maximum carry-on size, but it would certainly qualify as carry-on to give you an idea of the size of the thing. And it was carryable, 6-7 kilos, something like that. So I'd take it with me, and I didn't have to have the whole stand and everything, the pillar that I held it. It was just a tabletop unit, so I could demonstrate. And my God, they loved it. And then you just hit, so a few more meetings and stuff. And then they said, well, we've got this new technology pavilion. I can't remember. I think it might be in the year 2000.
Okay.
That they're saying, we're thinking we want to do this new technology pavilion of new technologies for the industry. And we'd love it. Could you bring it across? Would you? And I'm thinking, would I love it? Of course I'd love it. It's almost in the middle of McCormick Place, one of the biggest exhibition centers in the States, in Chicago. Don't get much better. And I've got all the publicity, all the writing in the show press for free. So take it. So we went, and that's where we found we found a few people. You find a lot of people, but then right after a trade show, most of them, they've already forgotten about you. It's a funny thing at the trade shows, especially, I suppose, I say especially in America, they're very upbeat as a nation, as people, in something like this.
Yeah.
And they all love it, but their enthusiasm wanes really fast somehow. So you might have 50 leads that you think you've got, and you've probably got one potential out of that, so you follow them all up. But one guy came along and he said to me, I've been told I've got to come across and see you, but I haven't got much time. I'm going out for lunch, and you've got 10 minutes. Yeah, it's one of these. You've got 10 minutes. I said, I won't take 10 minutes. I'll take up 2 minutes of your time. And while we're talking, I'd already started. And I went through my little tap routine. I said, there you go. And he just looked at me. And he said, I remember me saying, that's the answer. He said, I didn't really realise the question until now, but I've got the answer. He said, I'm going to come back and see you after lunch. And he did. And then we started talking. And he was a supplier in Home Depot, one of many suppliers of kitchens into Home Depot. Yeah. Home Depot are, well, then, I don't know, 30 billion a year. Much more now. I mean, it's just it's extraordinary. The size
back then, did they have a competitor? I mean, like now you got Lowe's, but I think back then.
Yeah, their competitor was actually, so Home Depot Expo become their new brand of higher end showrooms.
Okay.
Where there was no bricks and cement and plasterboard and stuff like that. It was just home enhancement, not home improvement, home enhancement. Okay. And the whole thing was just displays, floor tiles, wall tiles, all the nice things. Decor. Yeah. Their competitor was Sears, the Great Indoors. So there was Home Depot Expo, and then there was the Great Indoors by Sears. They were the two. Well, they were the main competitor. Lowe's, I don't think were up there with dedicated high-end showrooms. Not at that time. Might be different now. Probably is. They probably had to be.
Okay.
And at one point we were talking to both Sears and Home Depot that
Wow.
but we couldn't deal with both, you know. I mean, we just
Yeah.
couldn't deal with both. So I picked Home Depot as my runner. Anyway, so the guy came back and we talked some more, and he said, look, you know, one of my biggest clients, their problem is they haven't got the staff with the capability to sell the level of kitchen high end that I'm trying to sell. This would help a long way toward. He saw straight away what it would do.
Yeah.
Anybody worth their salt would see straight away what this did and the potential. So we had to talk around lots of stuff, and he said, look, I could get you in front of the people you need to be in front of. Then it's up to you. And at first I'm thinking he's another one of these talkers. You know, I said, okay, fine. I took all his details, but I did phone him afterwards. That was in, we can date this now, can't we? This was in, the trade show was in April 2002.
Right.
In McCormick Place, Chicago. I went over to see, I phoned him. I remember phoning him one evening because it was afternoon over there. And he was knocked out that I'd even followed up.
There you go.
There you go.
Doesn't know you well.
Huh?
He didn't know you at that stage.
He was, yeah, I remember him. He was like really, yeah, anyway. Yeah, we agreed. I'd go over, present it to his board, all his people, and then we'd see if we could work out a strategy, how they could get me in front of Home Depot. He said, I don't really want anything out of this. He said, I just like it. He said, I like it. Here's what he said. He said, I like it. I like you. He said, maybe our product will come at the front before, because they would have all their suppliers on there. But he said, that's all. I said, don't worry, you know, let's. So I went over. I've got all my happy pills inside me because I was falling. That's when I was falling apart. I'd got, I've got a kitchen business. Well, that was it. I've got a kitchen business. I'd got a touchscreen thing going on. I've got the Kitchen Specialists Association going on, and I've got all my home stuff going on with teenage kids, and I was just like losing it rapidly.
And plus America now.
Huh? And now, of course, America. And thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. I remember saying to my brother, I said, I think I'm going to stop the American thing. I just can't do it as well. I remember. But then the meeting that I had after the trade show, after the meeting with the woman, just changed everything. I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe I could be in America. So, but before that, I was already on my quite strong antidepressants, tricyclic, the old style.
How long were you on those for?
Not long after, my doctor took me off, and when I told him my marriage was splitting up as well, he took them off me.
So how long were you taking those?
Oh, I don't know, maybe a year or so. I mean, you got to be taking them a while for them to work properly.
Yeah,
you know? And damn it, they did work. You know, I mean, I was buzzing all the time. So that was it. You know, we did the president. So I'd gone over to see these guys. We worked out. He said next month. I said no, let's do it next month. You know, I can be pushy, right? You know, so April I'd met him. April I'd met him in Chicago. May the 3rd was our meeting in Texas. And June, we were going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, in Home Depot's head office. And, you know, just getting there. I'm doing my research on Home Depot by now, you know, and how you pitch to them and they're ex-buyers. There's a whole, well, there was, I don't know if it still is. There's like a little industry of ex-buyers that run seminars on how to pitch to Home Depot. You know, and you pay your $300 or whatever, go along to some hotel where they've rented a room, and they tell you how to pitch because they're like ex-buyers, that kind of thing, because you get one shot. and it's got to be a good one.
Right.
And with my products, well, in fact, I think with a lot of products, you don't start at the bottom, you actually start at the top. It's really interesting. You sit there with board members. The director of merchandising, I remember, was one. There was 4 or 5. You're given 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Expect your slot to be something like that. And you start at the very top, and they do the filtering. If they like your product, if they don't like your product, then that's you done anyway. If they like your product, then you go all the way down the snake. Then you start at the bottom and work your way back into the store. But they do the filtering of what they think could be a fit for them.
Sounds efficient.
Yes, yeah. So my 20 minutes, I had over an hour with them.
There you go.
Yeah, there I went. There and then. And anyway, it worked. But, I knew, Bob, I knew deep down. No, I say I knew. I had a good idea that deep down we weren't going to be able to do it. I mean, they would just they put you through hell, you know, all of the all the authorizations you got to get step by step to do this, to do that. The legal side. And there's me doing all of this. I haven't got a whole team. They've got thousands of people, literally. And then there's me.
So at this time, when you're in the States, you still have your kitchen business in the UK.
That was just about running without me, yeah. But it wasn't.
That's what I was going to ask. So how were they doing?
Not so great. And it was all, I don't know what I was too involved in my own stuff to even ask them.
All right.
That was all wrong, you know, when I look back. So it was slowly going downhill.
They couldn't have been too happy about that.
No, and it was going downhill because of it. And I was past caring. And this is what I say, this is one of the decisions that I made then that still affects me now, you know?
Yeah, but could that be an overall, maybe you have a little bit more restlessness in you than the average person?
Maybe. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, look, when I look back at a lot of it, the chance, maybe life is chance. Maybe it happens to us all. Maybe a lot of us don't follow our chances, though, because for other reasons they can't. Yeah. I just seem to have been that I could follow my chance meetings, chance meeting with Christine. I didn't say my current so-called girlfriend from London, because my mate said, "Oh, come up on your own. We'll be all right. We'll go out for some beers." And then I met Christine. I wouldn't have done. I would never have lived in Congleton. I don't know how my life would have turned out in London. Not as good, I don't think. I don't know. You know, and then various ones through the years. I just decided one day to pop into the Labour Exchange, my one and only visit ever, on the day that Tarmac were desperate for a technician. And I walked into open arms, you know, and over the years, these kind of things have happened. And there were more. I mean, there's still, we've not got to some of them yet, some of the chance discussions, you know, that have taken me to different places in the world, for goodness sakes. But I've been in a position where I could do it. I've either not had any ties by then, or, I mean, yeah, but the biggest one was walking away from a family. I mean, but I did it. And other people, or whether you'll ever get to interview other people or not, I don't know what other people have ever thought about it. But, you know, yeah, it's happened and done.
We're under the bridge.
Yeah, now.
A lot of water under the bridge was.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that's, so when you're trying to do this, I'm just trying to get my head around it, like the setup in the picture. So you're spending, it sounds like you're spending a lot of time in the States.
Yeah.
Maybe it's shorter times and very intensive visits. And you're doing all this on your salary from the kitchen business mainly, right?
Yeah.
All right. and then that's not going as well, so you weren't making as much.
Exactly, yeah. But we got, you know, the kitchen business. We still got income from Magnet. I mean, that project was still rolling along. You know, but it all went on following my dream. Nobody really benefited too much out. Well, I mean, everybody was like still like my business partner, and them, they were like, Warren, if that's what you're doing and it's going to be good, like just go with it. If you make more money, fantastic. But it, yeah, kind of could have done. I think I was saying, I think I knew from the start. No, I didn't say I know. I think I had an idea that following a dream was the wrong thing. It was underfinanced. I look back, wish I'd never gone to America.